Hey everybody, ronarray here, and as you know, I've been updating my Creed Stormwave pretty often. In the last update I went for rarity, but I improved it significantly in the last 2 days. So in this video I wanted to showcase how we can reach up to 341 rarity to improve our drops significantly, what we will need to pick for it, how my build currently looks, what I'm picking in Ascendancy. I'm going to showcase all my items and gems as well. I hope it will be helpful for you and will showcase you the way how you can improve your own build too. Let's go! So at the start let me showcase my rarity. As you can see I have 341 rarity right here, and that helps a lot with dropping more currency, more divines and everything else too. I also want to mention that that approach is mostly focused on mapping. I'm not really bossing with this build, so all of the changes are here just to make mapping as comfortable as possible. If you want to boss, you probably need to follow my main build version. I'm going to leave it in the description, so check it out. However, if I will need to boss, I can make it just in a few changes and it will not be a big issue. I'm also not having any issues with fighting bosses on the maps, because most of them are very easy. So how we can reach that rarity and what we will need to change to clear better in such approach? First off, I recommend to use Warrior Invictus Grand Regalia. I think getting rarity of items found per socket rune and elemental resistance per socket rune is a very cool bonus. As you can see I have 5 slots right here in my Warrior Invictus, but it's not really mandatory. If you will have 4 slots, that's totally alright, and they go significantly cheaper. So just taking Warrior with 4 slots will be much easier for you if you don't have a lot of divines to setting up the build. I'm using a little different helmet too, together with a rarity rune right now, and some rarity inside as well. That one is not that expensive, and you can get helmet with a little lower energy shield, but still with rarity for pretty cheap. Talking about the boots, I have increased the rarity here too, and it helps a lot. At the gloves I have 2 sockets and both of them has increased rarity inside. And important question is how we are getting resistances in that such setup. As you can see, here is my setup and all my resistances are capped. I'm mostly capping them from Warrior Invictus. Even 4 slots with elemental resistances is just enough. From my belt, which has fire resistance, cold and lightning resistance, but keep in mind that having mana on the belt is very important because it's going to help us with mana management. And we're getting some resistances from the ring, from the second ring a little as well. And on the second ring we can also roll lightning damage and increase the rarity of items found. I recommend to go for increased mana regeneration rate too, because in my opinion it helps a lot. And at the amulet we just have a lot of rarity and some criticals, together with mana. Mana on the amulet helps too, because it's going to lead me to a situation when I have a pretty high mana pool, and as you can see, high mana regeneration as well. My weapon style stays the same, it's mostly physical, lightning and level to all melee skills, so it's looking and function very similar to all the previous versions of the build. As you can see, gear is not really heavily changed. I'm going to showcase the rest right now. I have about 3657 shield, which is pretty enough because we are using the green fist right now and the shield is going to be doubled when we are playing. But the important moment here is that you need to take Warrior Invictus with enough energy, shield and UAG rating, so you will have around 170-160 spirit. It could be a little less energy shield than that, so around 195, and you can keep it in mind. Let's talk about our skills. Since we are mostly a mapping build right now, I'm using martial tempo at Stormwave. I think it helps a lot. Here I'm also using ambush, because it helps a lot with critical hit chance too. It also helps with damage with primal, and I'm using upheaval for better clear. I think upheaval could be questionable, and if you feel like your damage is not enough, you can drop upheaval and replace it with something. But right now I still prefer it because I think the coverage with upheaval is significantly better and it's much easier to hit enemies, so in my opinion it provides huge quality of life. And the last gem for me is Lightning Infusion. However, as you remembered, to trigger nuke, you will need cold damage. So, lightning infusion is questionable in that regard. If you don't have enough cold damage to nuke the screen, I recommend to get rid of lightning infusion because it's going to give you more cold damage here. And in that case, you can use almost any other setup. You can go for halved, for example, and it could be a decent option as well. So that way you need to just pick halved, and it's going to provide some damage to Stormwave too. So it will be 93k with halved or 97 with lightning infusion. It's completely up to your setup. But if you don't have a lot of cold, halved is a very good idea. And moving forward, we are still using Green Fist because Green Fist is absolutely amazing and going to ensure our survivability. And we are using Blink. For Blink I'm using Immunity for lower cooldown, Clarity because it helps a lot with mana, and Precision. I don't think Precision is mandatory, but I have Open, 10 Spirit in the end. And if you don't have it, you just have less because your Morir and Victus has less energy shield. Dropping Precision is just a decent option. And what about bossing? We're not really bossing with that build, and I don't really recommend to find pinnacles in such setup, but generally Tempest, Flurry and Bell helps a lot for it. At Tempest Flurry, I'm just using Electrocute, Practice Combo, Rage and Crescendo. If you still feel like you have issues or you want to try pinnacles, moving Martial Tempo to Tempest Flurry will be absolutely mandatory at the moment. It will also significantly improve the damage, as you can see, up to 120 and even higher. I think Rage is also worth it because it provides great additional multiplier. And Tempest Bell is still very strong. We can use Close Combat for Tempest Bell, we can use Overabundance, Concentrated Effect and Heavy Swing. Heavy Swing is not really that effective because it barely provides any damage, since damage for Tempest Bell is usually calculated after. So if you have open option, you can also add Lightning Infusion here, you can also add halved if you have it open, because Heavy Swing here is not the perfect option. However, I'm still using it because I think it could be pretty nice. And talking about Heralds, I'm not really using charge stuff anymore, so you can drop it completely. I just keep it for some particular situations. If I want to use like Siphoning Strike, so you can get it out and you will have just an open slot. I'm talking about charges, I'm using both Herald of Thunder and Herald of Ice, but I'm still using PROCC Ring. I know about the tech when you're just focusing on Heralds and you just drop the ring completely, but I will need a little more time to experiment with it and make sure it's stable enough, especially for builds with weaker weapons, before I could just recommend it. For now I'm still running both Heralds and the ring, because it's a very cheap version how we can achieve the same result. Even if you can lead to a very nice approach to explosions and nukes with Herald of Thunder and Herald of Ice. So right now for Herald of Thunder I'm just using basic stuff like Elemental Focus and Inner Weight, and Herald of Ice here provides Cold Infusion, Cold Mastery, Magnified Effect and Long Shot. Important moment here that you will ask why I'm using Elemental Focus and Inner Weight, because we are shocking with our main skill like with the Stormwave, and after that we are killing already shocked enemies. That way, even if Herald of Thunder not shocking itself with Elemental Focus, Inner Weight is still will be up because we are killing enemies that been shocked by our Stormwave consistently. So as you can see, approach is very simple, we are just spamming the Stormwave, and that's exactly what we are doing because the build is perfectly focused on mapping. And we can just focus on stacking as much resistance as possible while clearing breach and clearing maps to additional divine drops. And talking about the trees, there is not a lot of changes. Since we are not bossing enough, I tried to use Another Thunder instead of Unbound Avatar. And honestly still not sure about that change. Because Another Thunder can give us 10% of damage, but it's not just perfect. So if you have a little trouble with some rares, or with bosses, or with any kind of single target, I recommend to keep Unbound Avatar, because in my opinion Unbound Avatar is just amazing. However, Another Thunder could be an option if you just want to boost your damage in the map, because it's going to give additional 10%. The rest of the trees staying the same. Very important moment since we are playing full CI right now, Please remember that you need sapphire jewels like that, with 10% of maximum energy shield as additional stun threshold. It's very important because otherwise you're going to get constantly stunned. Getting at least 3 of those, but perfectly 5, are going to help you significantly and you will not get stunned that often. Another important moment that I wanted to showcase is the freeze. I'm usually using just charm for immunity to freeze instead of using a charm for rarity. That's the main reason why I'm using it, because freeze is a big issue with such pool. However, if you will spend 4 points 1, 2, 3 and 4 here for icebreaker, you will feel significantly better. And since we are using Warrior Invictus, I also picked Spectral Ward. It can add additional energy shield and it can improve our energy shield in general, since otherwise it could be kinda low. If you still feel like it's low, you can take more small passives for that, here for example, 2 of them, and you will feel a little better. You can drop Essence of the Storm, for example, if you already play Name the Thunder. And where to get points to get a Spectral Ward? Well, the answer is pretty easy. I just dropped Maiming Strike. I honestly like Maiming Strike and I think it's been a pretty nice option, but we really need points to make sure that we have enough energy shield. And our main regeneration is like Eternal Youth here, because it gives us life recharged instead of energy shield, but life recovery from Flasks applies to energy shield instead. And showcasing my Flask, I just have a huge increased amount recovered, because that way it's much easier to just recover our huge energy shield too. And at the Mana Flask I have 30% of recovery applied instantly, mostly to boost single target. And on my Amulet I have a Storm Charge, because I think it's a very strong buff right now still. But if you have less currency, you can go for Overwhelming Strike. I always recommended it and I think it's pretty nice for our Annoying. But please always keep in mind that you will need a lot of jewels to improve your general situation. The rest of the tree stays the same, there's not a lot of changes and it's very similar to what we had before. The main place where we are getting rarity now is Warrior Invictus, its Pulsing Ring and Hand of Wisdom in action. After tasting that rarity, I would say it's working pretty great, around 200%, but even reaching 300 still gives additional currency, and I think it's worth it, even if diminishing returns here are kind of obvious and it's not really raining divines on me. However, I'm probably going to push my rarity even further in the next few updates, so stay tuned guys and we will see what we can do moving forward. Thank you all for watching and Happy New Year everybody. ronarray out.